I think it's fair to say that this song is a little bit bonkers. I mean, I'm sure Brian Wilson is a genius, but there are some slightly crazy things going on. We've got this very sophisticated orchestration and a very beautiful melody with an unusual chord sequence, but then there are these slightly weird, disjointed sections. The verse ends differently each time, and you need to kind of keep your wits about you. In keeping with the spirit of the original, it's probably a little bit crazy of me to attempt to distill this all down to a single acoustic guitar, but, you know, I'm going to give it a go. And sometimes it works really nicely. Sometimes I've had to come up with some novel, slightly creative solutions that are, frankly, a lot of fun. I've created a backing track to play along with this, which itself was an education because it gave me an insight into the way things work a little bit. I'll have a playthrough on that. I'm not going to sing it all the way through. I'll play the melody on the alto saxophone. I'm sure we're all glad for that. And then at the end of the video, I'll put the backing track again so you can play it at your leisure. We've got 4 beats in the bar, capo on the 2nd fret, and I'm going to play a picking pattern on a chord of G. There's quite a lot of G in this song, like this. Doesn't sound much like the original yet, but it's a simple Travis style pattern. I've got my thumb on the 6th string for G. If it was a C chord, the thumb would be up on the 5th string, for instance. Down here, my picking fingers are on the 2nd and 3rd string. So my first finger's on the 3rd string, 2nd finger on the 2nd string, and it works like this. I'm going to pick the 6th string with the thumb, come up to the 2nd string with the 2nd finger, follow that up with a thumb on the 4th string, and right next to it the 1st finger on the 3rd string. Okay. And once we start to play through the sections, you'll see that this works pretty well. There's a couple of places where we're going to customize things and not play that pattern, but for the majority of the song, which is the verse, and then there's a kind of ethereal, multi-vocal part tacked on the end before the final verse, we're going to do this picking throughout. The intro then is 4 bars, which kind of repeat, different ending the second time, and it's just a bar of G and D over F sharp. I'm going to play it like this. I could play a D all the way up here onto the top string, but you know, I'm not picking the top string, so I'm going to limit my fingers up to the 2nd string, and that's enough. It's G for a bar, D over F sharp for a bar, and back again. And in the original, over that, there's a French horn part. Na, da, dee, ba, da. So it's ba, ba, da, ba, da, ba, ba, da, ba, da. The second time we stay on G, and then something else happens. With the D over F sharp, you've got a finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. You could keep it there for the G as well, just to create a bit of continuity. Ba, ba, da, ba, da, da, that kind of a thing. Ba, ba, de, ba, da. And we get these chords again in the coda, and again there you'll see that we might do a similar thing with the G, keeping a note on the 2nd fret, the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, I should say. Okay, the second time through, ba, ba, da, ba, da. That's what happens. I'm playing the open 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings, then I'm barring on the 2nd fret, and then the 3rd fret. Ba, ba, dee, da. Okay, so the whole of the second time through. Ba, ba, da, ba, da. And that takes us into the verse. Now, one last little thought in that intro. If you wanted to incorporate, I mean, I don't know when you're going to play this song, whether you're going to include all the sections I've got or take the bits that you find useful and find your own solutions for the others. That would be great. But the melody part, which is played on the French horn, you could actually incorporate that easily enough into the picking, because this bit, na, da, that happens on the open B string. Ba, da. By the time you get to the note on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, you're on the D over F sharp. Bla, da, da. reach up to the 5th fret of the top string, return to the 3rd fret for the G chord. Okay, now it's time for the verse. Okay, now the verse is very much the bulk of the song. 3 times we get the verse. It's 12 bars long, and each time there's a slightly different ending. So let's just go through the first 4 bars now. We've got C over G, which is essentially a standard C chord, but with that 3rd finger displaced down to the bottom string. I may not to A minor, always love you, E minor, but long as there are stars, to A above you. So all of that. I may not always love you, E minor, but long as there are stars above you. That's the first 4 bars. Next 4 bars we have D over A. You'll never need. Now we have B diminished, B flat diminished I should say, which looks like an A7 chord with a finger played on the 1st fret of the 5th string. That's kind of what it is. For a bar, back to D over A, and then we've got this thing that glories in the name of G sharp minor 7 flat 5, G sharp half diminished. And so it's like this. You'll never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. This is maybe a more unusual shape. It's used a lot in jazz, and if you can get your 1st finger onto the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, everything else should fall into shape underneath it. So, you'll never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. Okay, that's not so bad. And then the final 4 bars, well, the first 3 bars are always the same here. God only knows where I'd be without you. G and D over F sharp we've already seen. God only knows where I'd be without you. Okay, so the whole of the verse up to that point, and then we'll look at the various endings. Here we go. I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you'll never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you. Now, that's what happens in the bass. I really like another octave here so I can get bom, bum, bum. It's kind of like the that we had in the intro, just in a different key. And maybe the best way to play this is the open 4th and 5th strings, and then barred on the 2nd fret and 3rd fret. There are a few different things you could do here. It's basically a D5 chord, then an E5, then an F5. You could kind of do that. But, you know, it's a lot to do. God only knows where I'd be without you. I think that's what I'm going to do there. Okay, the second time is where the fun really starts. The second time, the verse is exactly the same with a different lyric, and incidentally, the lyric for the second time is the same as the lyric for the 3rd and final time. But then we have this. Okay, that's what I've got. There's all sorts of things going on there. There's percussion and flute, bum, bum, and everyone's playing that rhythm. Dum, 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 dee doo, ba doo, da doo, da dum, 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 dee doo, da dee doo, da doo. Now, I've got a triad here, which is like a D shape, but moved up to the 7th and 8th frets. It's exactly an octave above the open 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So that's what happens. I'm leaping an octave. Then I'm holding that shape, coming to the 2nd and 3rd strings, adding the 4th string open. And then I start going down 2 frets at a time to F, to E flat. And at some point, I need to transfer that triad across to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, otherwise I'm going to run out of neck. So I'm going to go here. That's the 6th fret, then the 4th fret, then the 3rd fret, then the first fret. And again. That's my solution. You might find something different or better or easier, or you might just whistle it there at that point. But let me give you the whole of the second verse and I'll try and add that into it. If you should ever leave me, well, life would still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me, so what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you. We're nearly there now. We've got a new 12-bar section with the vocal parts. There's lots of R's and O's and ba, 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 all that kind of counterpoint stuff, lots of vocal parts interweaving. This is what we've got in the way of chords, and it's going to make more sense if you play it along with the original, but hopefully there'll be some sort of logic in the way they fit under your fingers. We've got F with C in the bass. If I keep my second finger there on the second fret of the third string, I can easily move to D minor 6, with the finger on the top string at the first fret. That's all that is. Now if I move that pair of fingers down a string, I get A minor 7. And now I've got something called D over C. It's a slightly unusual voicing, but really useful in certain places. And to do that, to find the shape, I'm going to move my A minor 7 up a fret and down a string. And then I can form the rest of the chord above it with the third and fourth fingers. So that 4 bars with a part of the melody. Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. And the next 4 bars are like this. Ba-ya, ba-da, ba-ya, ba-ya. Let's go through those chords one at a time. We've got G over D, which is a straightforward G chord, but just the top 4 strings. So it's ba-da. I'm playing the extra notes just because I need to pick them out so I can sing the melody, so you'll have to forgive me. Ba-da, ba. This is now E flat diminished, and it's first fret on the 4th, second fret on the 3rd, first fret on the 2nd, second fret on the 1st. You might bar across the first fret as well to play it like that. I'm sure I ought to. Ba-da, ba-da. Back to G over D. Ba-da, ba-da. So the melody is G, B, and that's on this, a C sharp half diminished, C sharp minor 7 flat 5. Because the melody goes ba-da up to a G, halfway through that, as the melody goes up to a G, you could change to this voicing, which is another shape for the same chord. It's another C sharp minor 7 flat 5. It's entirely up to you. Bye, bye, ah, but you don't have to. Ah, you could stay there. So the whole of that 8-bar section, if you like. Da da ba da ba da bo da ba da bo da da. And we finish with 3 bars that are exactly the same as the last 3 bars of the verse, but instead of G, D over F sharp, E minor 7, we're now in C. So we've got C, G over B, A minor 7. For the C, I do want to pick the top string, but then for G over B, and I'm adding a finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and also for A minor 7, I don't want to pick the top string because I want to get this parallel motion going between the bass note and the top note of the chord. God only knows what I'd be without you. That takes us into the 3rd verse, and then we're into the coda. Okay, so we finally reached the outro. Going from the end of the 3rd verse, which is just the same as the 2nd verse, we get this. God only knows what I'd be without you. Now, we'll go back to D over F sharp and to G, and then we get this 4-bar cycle that goes round to the fade, basically. God only knows what I'd be without you. D over F sharp, and now here it comes. It's G. God God only knows. D over F sharp, what I'd be without you. E minor 7, back to D over F sharp, and that cycles round. G. God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be, and so on and so on. You'll notice for the G, I'm keeping my little finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, just so we get that continuity, like I suggested for the intro. God only knows what I'd be without you. And so on and so on. It should just fade out. It takes ages to fade out, of course. For my backing track, I think I've played this 3 times through, or 4 times for the coda. I can't exactly remember, but it's about that time. Let's have a playthrough of the whole thing. Thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far with me, then maybe it wasn't such a crazy idea after all. Thanks a lot, and see you on the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it.
Thank you.